It wasn't some casual accessory, nor was it a random sparkle caught by the camera. And it definitely wasn't meaningless. This was a statement ring, and when fans saw it on Janelle Brown's finger, the universe of sister wives blew up. Within hours, screenshots were circulating, zoom-ins, side-by-side comparisons, Reddit threads, TikTok breakdowns. And one question resounded loudest of all. Was Janelle Brown engaged, or was this the most savage, silent revenge Kody Brown's ever endured? For years, decades actually, Janelle was made out to be the low-maintenance wife, the level-headed one, the financial backbone, the woman who didn't require or demand flashy presents, over-the-top proclamations, or reassurance at every turn. As emotional attention was doled out in fits and starts from within the family, Janelle kept it all glued together behind the scenes. She worked, she had budgeted, she sacrificed, and she did so unobtrusively. Which is exactly why this ring hit so hard. Because nothing about it was quiet. The ring wasn't small, it wasn't subtle, and it certainly wasn't something fans had ever seen Kody give Janelle during their decades-long relationship. It glittered in the light, effortlessly commanding attention. An imposing stone, a surefire design, innovative, strong, pricey, and within minutes, fans were raising the uncomfortable question. How did Janelle afford this? And why now? Online jewelry enthusiasts chimed in, estimating it could be anywhere from $40,000 to $50,000, depending on the stone and setting. If that wasn't surprising enough, the timing was explosive. Because that wasn't when she was married to Kody. After she had walked away, Janelle didn't leave her marriage to the sound of fireworks or dramatic confrontations. There was no screaming exit, no viral meltdown. What she did instead was powerful. She chose peace. She chose distance. And she chose herself. For viewers of Sister Wives since the beginning, it was a flea circle transformation. Janelle, once the staunch defender of plural marriage, trying to make logic eclipse emotion, now stood on her own, lighter, calmer, and more confident. And when that ring appeared, jewelry was not what any fan saw. They did see proof. Proof that she wasn't just surviving. She was thriving. One thing that was always a pretty sensitive topic in Janelle and Kody's relationship was money. Janelle was a significant contributor to the family finances. She worked steadily. She invested. She helped finance properties and plans for the benefit of all, but not to her equal benefit. Cracks began to show over time, not just emotionally, but financially. Viewers watched Janelle express frustration for not having security, ownership, and stability. While others were gaining emotional priority or material comfort, Janelle could only question where her sacrifices truly went. So, when they realized the ring most likely cost more than anything Kody ever gave her, that changed everything. Because it raised a brutal possibility. Here's what made this moment especially powerful. Janelle didn't make any announcement. No caption was attached by her. She didn't explain. She only put on the ring, and that silence spoke louder than any interview ever could. Because in the world of reality TV, in which drama is currency, not explaining is the ultimate flex. That left fans to fill in the blanks, and every possible explanation felt equally as devastating to Kody's image. If some new man purchased the ring, Janelle upgraded. If Janelle bought it herself, Janelle conquered. If it meant love to oneself, Janelle won. No single version of the story left Kody in charge. There's one thing that Kody Brown has struggled with above everything else: loss of authority. Throughout Sister Wives, he positioned himself as the center of the family, the leader, the decision-maker, the emotional axis. As relationships finally began to crumble, His reactions often exposed how deeply his identity was tangled up in control. When Janelle left, it wasn't loud, but it was final. And this ring? It symbolized something Kody could never give her. Stability, respect, security, choice. Whether he said so aloud or not, this was a moment that undercut the narrative he attempted to keep going. That wives required him to flourish, because Janelle did not simply move on. She leveled up. Fans, after the ring, went back and re-watched footage from recent times with new eyes. They had also noticed how Janelle spoke, how she laughed more easily, how her body language felt relaxed instead of guarded. This wasn't the energy of a woman recovering from loss. This was the energy of a rediscovered woman, and that terrified a certain kind of ego. Because confidence without validation is dangerous to people who rely on being needed. So what does the ring really mean? Or is there a secret fiancé waiting in the wings? A drama-free, wealthy partner who treats Janelle as an equal? Or is this something far more powerful? A declaration, a reminder, a firmly drawn line between the past and the future. One thing is certain, the ring wasn't an accident, and it wasn't worn without intention. It marked the moment Janelle Brown stopped being a supporting character in someone else's story and became an author in her right. On first appearance, it seems to be a very beautiful ring. To Sister Wives enthusiasts, it came as a thunderbolt. This ring didn't just emerge out of thin air. It came with history and drama and unanswered questions. The more fans considered this ring, the more it became clear. This is more than glitz. There was a ring with a history, and that scenario utterly conflicted with everything the audience had been led to believe about Janelle Brown for so many years. Indeed, for the vast majority of the series, Sister Wives, there had been a particular role that Janelle Brown played. That role? The easygoing wife. She was the one who didn't want big romantic gestures. She wasn't the one who was crying for attention. She wasn't the one vying for center stage. Rather, Janelle actually did something. She worked. She managed finances. She contributed to keeping the family afloat, while some of them addressed emotional issues. And that is why this ring was so startling. Because it didn't fit the version of Janelle that audiences were accustomed to seeing. This wasn't modest. This wasn't minimal. This was not compromise. This was confidence. Fans not only noticed the ring, fans analyzed the ring. The stone was bold and statement-making. The setting was modern and planned. It did not look like it was placed there by accident or design, and it was anything but a romantic gesture. It did not even look like it could be an anniversary ring. It was very powerful looking, almost defiant. Jewelry enthusiasts and experts started to break down its estimated worth online. The result? Between $40,000 and $50,000. This number counted. Since the audience had been viewing the family dynamics for so long, the reason was that the viewers had been witnessing the economic contribution that Janelle had been making to the family. This was while not. Thus, when this ring surfaced, the question was not merely who purchased it. It had a purpose, a reason, an explanation. It existed because of a why. This ring would have been a problem if it had shown up during Janelle. But it didn't. It started when she broke up with Kody. Following the financial arguments. Then comes the after the emotional distance. Since the awareness that loyalisms were not being reciprocated. This made the ring something entirely different at this particular time. It became a symbol of life post-Kody Brown. And then fans caught on to what's happening. In every possible meaning of this ring story, it all says the same thing. Janelle seems to be doing much better without him. The fans did not wait for long before they started forming camps based on their own personal interpretations. Here, however, comes the twist. All of these theories hurt Kody's ego to an equal level. Theory 1. A new fiancé bought it. The fact that the ring is from a new romantic partner could only mean that Janelle has found someone with more money, someone calmer, and emotionally mature enough not to be threatened by her independence. This in itself would be a huge improvement over the emotional abandonment he has been suffering through for so long. Theory 2. Janelle bought it herself. And because I don't believe the theory that a self-bought $50K ring dares to ask no permissions, a self-bought $50K ring seeks no approvals. A self-bought $50K ring represents. It says, I don't need anyone to choose me. I choose myself. Processed in 140 milliseconds. Theory 3. It's a symbol, not a proposal. This theory sees some fans think that the ring symbolizes closure, a personal marker of independence, a reminder of what she survived, of what she reclaimed. This time, the ring does not relate to love. It's about freedom. And none of these reasons has anything to do with Kody. Here's the thing that fans couldn't help but notice, and in fact, pointed out directly. I've never had anything like that happen with one of my wives before. Not financially, not symbolically, not emotionally. Although involvement in other relationships in her life may have been evident, her worth could be seen in responsibility rather than reward. As such, being able to view her with an outfit that cost more than most of the gifts she received during her marriage was hard for viewers to stomach. It was, therefore, what happened next, or rather what did not happen, that made this moment so pivotal. What really brought meaning to this moment, though, was Jay. She didn't explain the ring. She neither confirmed nor debunked engagement rumors. She did not rush into social platforms to explain anything. She just wore it. Because you see, in the world of reality TV, silence is a powerful thing. In this way, by choosing not to explain, Janelle was in control of the narrative. This was because she did so by giving the fans the opportunity to interpret the moment in their own way, and she's no longer seeking validation or affirmation. She is living her life as she chooses. After the arrival of the ring, some fans noticed some changes. Janelle's posture had changed. Her expressions are softer and more self-assured. Her topics of discussion revolved around the future, not the past. This wasn't bitterness. This wasn't regret. This was a relief. The type that involves finally stopping the carrying of the emotional burdens of something that never actually was theirs in the first place. For years, Janelle had been attempting to make the reality of plural marriage work through logic and patience. Fairness would eventually be hers. This ring represented the point at which she had finally stopped waiting. It was the line dividing who she was and who she is becoming. A woman not defined by shared property, shared neglect, or shared disappointment. A woman who knows her value. This moment has meaning not only for Janelle. It's about all of the viewers who have watched her put herself in compromising positions all these years. Paige. It's about every woman who remained practical while others were being placed first. It's about the quiet strength that often goes unnoticed until it finally shines. This ring didn't call for an announcement. It didn't need a confession. What it represented was obvious as soon as it appeared in light. The best bit of all, Janelle didn't wear this ring to make a statement. She wore it because she could. And that's what makes it so memorable. Explosive arguments, he can spin those. Public disagreements, he can diffuse. Emotional chaos, he can blame others. But silence, the silence scares him. And it's that fact that made Janelle's ring so devastating. Because this wasn't a confrontation. It wasn't a public accusation. It wasn't even a direct message. It was proof, undulating, irrefutable proof, that Kody was no longer the gravitational center of Janelle Brown's existence. For so long, Kody had envisioned himself as more than a husband. He had conceptualized himself as the structural framework that kept everything tied together. The leader, the decision-maker, the man whose presence legitimized the sacrifices of plural marriage. His authority wasn't merely an emotional issue, it was symbolic. As long as the wives had a need for him, he would remain relevant. But from the very beginning, Janelle was different. She was not emotionally dependent. She wasn't clingy. She was never in need of any form of validation. And yet she remained loyal, many times at her own cost. That kind of loyalty made Kody comfortable, allowed him to assume her patience would never run out. Until it did. Something shifted when Janelle started voicing some financial concerns. For the first time, she wasn't just supporting the family, she was questioning it. She spoke candidly about lack of ownership. She was quite irritated since she felt financially exposed. She pleaded for justice. And those conversations weren't emotional, they were logical, which made them harder to dismiss. Kody couldn't gaslight logic. But when logic threatened his authority, frustration followed. Christine leaving was the polar opposite. Loud, emotional, public. Was it Janelle leaving? It was quiet, calculated, permanent. She didn't storm out. She didn't beg for validation. She simply stopped participating in a system that no longer served her. That kind of exit is dangerous to someone relying on dominance, because there is nothing to quibble about. No door to slam. No drama to be in control. Absence. The ring did not announce itself. It didn't clamor for attention. But it shattered the illusion Kody had spent years protecting. Because here's the thing. Kody had an ego based on the fact that his wives were helpless without him. Emotionally, financially, socially. It was in contradiction to everything that the ring had said. The woman was now wearing something symbolic of stability, security, and confidence in a world where she was supposed to be lost without the family structure. And that image didn't include him. The ring represented something Kody never gave Janelle. It was not because he could not, but because he did not prioritize her enough to try. Janelle dealt with responsibility, while Kody himself focused on loyalty and obedience. The lack of balance could be realized with time. So it was a brutal comparison to see her now, the way in which she could survive independently. She didn't lose by leaving. She obtained. And Kody lost the one thing he valued the most: relevance. What really made this moment even more damaging was the fact that Kody wasn't able to react. There had not been a public statement, no snide remark, no explanation. For to acknowledge the ring was to acknowledge the shift. And ignoring it did not make the truth go away. It magnified it. And the fans took notice. They saw how Janelle's independence highlighted the fragility of Kody's authority. They saw how quickly the narrative flipped. The man who once positioned himself as indispensable suddenly looked optional. Kody's power always came with conditions. Affection had rules. Support had expectations. There was a cost for it to be accepted. She had lived under that structure for years, tempering logic with loyalty. The ring symbolized freedom from that system. No rules, no negotiations, no emotional toll. Just choose. And that kind of freedom is threatening to anyone who built their identity on control. The hardest truth for Kody wasn't that Janelle moved on. It was how she walked her way into the next life. She didn't replace him with chaos. She replaced him with peace. No revenge was to be carried out in public. No bitter interviews. No wild accusations. Just upgraded my life to the calm. You can't argue your way out of that. Revenge usually is loud. This one looked elegant. The ring was not worn to be injurious to Kody. It didn't have to be that way. It was. And its existence told a story Kody couldn't rewrite. A story wherein Janelle prospered after her exit. A story of independence as reward. A story of how control failed. Here's where the irony is that fans just couldn't seem to stop talking about. He always claimed that plural marriage was about family strength. Yet the most powerful transformation took place outside its confines. The ring was proof that the system didn't empower Janelle, but limited her. And then when she stepped away, she thrived. Kody didn't lose Janelle on an argument. He lost her in silence. He lost her when she ceased explaining herself. He lost her in the moment she chose peace over permission. And the ring? It was not a weapon. It was a receipt. Proof that she no longer needed his approval to shine. It wasn't about jewelry. It was about identity. It was about what happens when control meets independence and loses it. Janelle didn't simply walk away from Kody Brown. She walked right into a version of herself that no longer revolved around him. And that is the kind of loss no ego ever recovers from. It was beyond everything. The ring alone was shocking. But what really sent fans into an uproar wasn't the jewelry alone. It was Janelle herself. Because long before anyone noticed the sparkle on her finger, viewers noticed quite another thing. Janelle had changed. Her voice now lightened. Her smile lasted longer. Her presence felt peaceful. And that kind of change doesn't occur by accident. So, the biggest question started flowing everywhere. Is there a new man in Janelle Brown's life? Fans who have followed sister wives for years know this truth. Pain shows. Exhaustion shows. Emotional neglect shows. And for a long time, it showed on Janelle. But recently, something shifted. In interviews, she seemed more composed, more firm in her words. Less on the defensive, less tense. This wasn't the energy of someone freshly wounded by a breakup. This was the energy of a person who feels safe once more. Safety often comes from one of two places: inner peace, or a partner who treats you right. Here is what made the rumors stronger. Janelle has not denied anything. In the social media era, silence is rarely accidental, particularly when one places themselves in the public eye. If there was utterly no truth to any of the speculation, that would be an easy rumor to shut down. But she didn't. Instead, she did the opposite of what most of us would predict. She remained silent. That silence gave fans room to observe, and what they observed raised eyebrows. Subtle shifts of confidence. Renewed orientation to her future. Less attachment to past pain. All signs of someone who feels supported. Here's what fans overwhelmingly agree on. If Janelle is in a relationship with someone, it isn't with any other Kody. The theories point toward a man completely outside the reality TV bubble. Someone financially secure, emotionally mature, private. One who doesn't like to be in the limelight. Not someone who bases themselves on chaos. Not somebody who has to fill a room. In other words, the exact opposite of what she fled. A lot of people would say that this man would be someone who values partnership over control. Someone who doesn't need multiple wives to feel important. And what if that person does exist? And then it makes complete and utter sense. If there is a fiancé, or even a serious relationship, of course Janelle wouldn't share it. Because she's learned something important. One doesn't have to make everything public for it to be real. Her relationships were cut up, judged, and questioned for decades. Every emotion developed into content, every disagreement into storyline. This time, Janelle might just be protecting her peace. No cameras, no pressure, no opinions, just real life. And that decision alone is a signal of growth. If one looks closely, the ring does not scream engagement in the conventional sense. There was no announcement, no caption, no official unveiling. Instead, it felt more like a quiet signal, almost as if Janelle wasn't trying to tell the world anything. She was living her life, letting others catch up when they are ready. This kind of confidence usually comes from knowing you don't need the validation anymore. Ironically, a confirmed fiancé would be easier for Kody to process. Why? Confirmation gives closure, because uncertainty doesn't. The very thought that Janelle might be happily partnered, just not publicly, creates a narrative that Kody can't control or comment on. He cannot compete with what he cannot see. And that uncertainty is far more ruinous to an ego that is built upon visibility. One thing that has been vividly pointed out by fans: this doesn't feel like a rebound. There is no desperation. Take your time. No emotional chaos. Everything about Janelle's energy speaks to stability, not distraction. When a new partner is introduced, the relationship seems based more on mutual respect than emotional dependence. And that's what makes it powerful. But here's the twist many fans are starting to consider. What if there is no fiancé? What if this ring does not bind with any man? Because that possibility could be even more revolutionary. There's growing feeling that Janelle may have purchased the ring herself. Not for revenge. Not as a flex, but as a marker. A reminder for survival. A celebration of independence. A promise never to abandon herself again. And honestly, that version of the story seems to just really align perfectly with who she is becoming. Fiancé or not, it's all the same in the conclusion. Janelle Brown is no longer waiting to be chosen. She is choosing herself. She is choosing peace. She opts for stability. She is choosing a future not defined by compromise. And that's why this ring, and this mystery, has captivated fans. In the end, the most powerful thing Janelle did wasn't wearing the ring. It was not explaining it. Because explanations invite debate. Silence invites respect. And for now, Janelle doesn't owe anyone answers. If there is a fiancé, it shall be proven in due time. If there isn't, the implication is clear nonetheless. Janelle is happy, and that may be the most surprising turnaround of all. By now, it's evident. This was never just about a ring. It was never just about a fiancé, a price tag, or Kody Brown's wounded ego. The facts of the case are interesting enough. The reality, however, goes very much deeper than all of these things. Because clearly the real story is not about what Janelle gained. It's about what she finally let go of. For most of her life, Janelle waited. She waited for fairness, the poem. She awaited balance. She waited for effort to be returned. She thought that with time, her patience would finally pay off. That logic would be rewarded. The right thing would lead to security. It became a habit, nonetheless, to wait. And then there are patterns like this that leech people slowly in terms of emotion, money. That ring symbolized the point when Janelle stopped waiting, said the, not angrily, not significantly, but firmly. That was not a phase. It wasn't a rebound. It wasn't a reaction. There is nothing about Janelle's energy that implies closure. Real closure doesn't scream. It doesn't beg for acknowledgement. It does not need approval. It simply moves ahead. And that is exactly what she did. For many years, her identity was defined by what she had to offer. So, her whole life. The family leaned on her stability. The structure relied on her logic. This is because the system relied on the fact that Julia was. But few people asked her what she wanted. The ring represented something radical. Because ownership of her worth. That when people walk away in an unruffled way, there is nothing more to control. The moment became significant among fans as it is relatable. There are so many people who relate to Janelle. The reliable one. The practical one. The one who keeps everything together having been taken for granted. To see her enter her independence is almost a personal experience. It's almost validating. It feels like hope. Some think the ring is a gift. Others think that it is self-purchased. However, in either of these situations, it acts as a promise. A promise that I will never settle again. A commitment to speak out sooner. To respect and value herself first. And promises like that don't fade. Here's the biggest change of all. By the end of this journey, Kody Brown is no longer the bad guy, or even the subject. He's just part of the past, Carrie said. And that is the eventual result. When someone no longer defines either positively or negatively, you're free. The ring is an embodiment of freedom. Janelle didn't just walk out of a marriage. A mental attitude was left behind. She rejected the belief that to be loyal, one must sacrifice oneself. She no longer believed that patience was rewarded. She no longer believes that silence is a recipe for stability. What replaced such beliefs is, but clarity makes all the difference. They may not recall all the debates and incidents in years to come, but they'll remember this. The moment Janelle stood quietly, confidently, and chose herself. The moment she finished explaining. The instant the shrinking ended. The moment she put the ring on, not for the purpose of gaining attention or for the sake of revenge, but for the simple fact that the ring meant who she was. The ring did not mark the end of a chapter. It closed a book, Mark added. And Janelle didn't look back as she set it down. What gives such a powerful ending is the lack of regret. Her face doesn't display any anger, not resentful in her voice. No bitterness in her steps. Pure justice. And peace is the strongest indication that she made the right choice. This wasn't a revenge tale. It was the story of liberation. This ring was not intended to do any harm. It was intended to remind a woman of her worth. And so it did. Everything. Janelle Brown didn't have to make any kind of announcement regarding her victory. She lived it. And sometimes the strongest statement you can make, she continued, looking, is simply moving on.